Hello, this is History Unit 1, Lesson 3, Anchor Text and Essential Questions. In this lesson, students are going to read what we call an anchor text. That is a text that it provides some of the context for the other reading that they're going to be doing in the unit. They're also going to learn to write on text pages, which is something they may not have done yet. They're going to reflect on the essential questions for the unit, discuss their understandings of that anchor text, and they're going to start a discipline-specific word list. That is a list of words that are going to help them learn the content. So, as I said, an anchor text provides context for the unit. It gives you important background information about the focus of the study that they're going to be doing and sets up the questions that are to be answered through reading in the rest of the unit. And these questions are also called essential questions. You'll see that in the teacher's guide. Students are going to get a more detailed instruction on how to annotate in Lesson 5, but in this lesson, they're going to learn a rudimentary form of annotation. It's introduced here just to get students used to the idea of writing on the text, which is something they may not have done in their high school classes. One of the things they're going to be doing is something that we call close reading. This is reading the textbook carefully for particular, or the text carefully for particular historical purposes. And you might have to model this, especially if students aren't used to reading very carefully or reading in their history classes. And you're also going to have to model writing on the text. So in the teacher's guide, there is an excerpt from the Declaration of Independence, and this you can use to help students learn to read carefully and to annotate what they read. It may be that your students have difficulty even after that, so you're going to model it. You're going to have students do a little practice. You're going to bring them back. You're going to talk about what they read and what they wrote on the page, and they might need some more modeling and more practice as they go through this anchor text. It's important to start using that term close reading with students because that will give them a cue to the fact that they're going to be reading especially carefully for particular elements that are common in history. In Activity 1, they're going to start to read the anchor text. I want students to read with a partner or group. This is, of course, a decision of yours about which one is going to work better for your class. And as they do this, they will have to learn how to work with that partner or group if they haven't been used to reading in this way so far. So the students are going to stop after every paragraph or so, and they're going to talk to their partners about their thoughts, questions, and about vocabulary that they are, that they find difficult. So again, this is something they may not have had practice doing, and it might take a little practice for them to do that. And they're going to create a list of partner or group questions, and they're going to share their annotations with each other. So that's what students are going to do as part of their group work. You will want to think strategically about how you want to group or partner students. Especially paying attention to the students who are going to have difficulty reading, because you want to make sure that they're in a supportive group or the supportive partner. Somebody who can help them, who's maybe not so far ahead of them that they're going to find it painful to read with this partner. And you may need to model how to engage in this kind of group or partner work. That is, if you're having students read with a partner, bring a student up there and go through the process of what you're going to be doing, which we talked about in the last slide. Read a paragraph or two, talk about it, think about what questions you have, go over vocabulary, and then continue to read. Maybe taking turns to have one person read and then the other read. And you're also going to need to review how to deal with difficult vocabulary, because one of the things we want to do in this unit is build some independence in grappling with difficult vocabulary words that they come across as they read. So you're going to be telling them, giving them some strategies for dealing with these words, which is one might be to read the sentence over again, read a little bit before, read a little bit after, and see if that doesn't help you with the word in context. Breaking a word down into its meaning parts, looking at a glossary or a dictionary, asking another person in the group. All of those things are strategies that they can use to figure out words on their own. So students are going to be coming up with questions, and they also have some essential questions. Those are the questions that they're going to end the anchor text looking at. Now, they're not going to be able to answer the questions at this point because they haven't done the rest of the reading, but they can consider what they mean. For example, there's a question about change, and questions about change require them to look at the beginning of the 60s and the end of the 60s and to see what differences there are. In other words, to do a comparison and contrast. And so having a discussion with your students about what that kind of question, a change question, means would be important. Change over time is really a very important concept in history. It's one thing that historians look at. So this is a good thing to have a discussion about. So after they finish reading the anchor text, students are going to discuss it. And before they start this discussion, one of the things that they're asked to do is determine an important word. That is to, after reading the anchor text, which word really stands out as being a central, important word to the ideas that are conveyed in the text. Choose that word, put it on a chart, and then explain to the group or the partner why they chose that word. Then they're going to look on the chart and they're going to find two words that go together, and they're going to write those down and again explain to their group or their partner why they put those two words together, what that has to do with the meaning of the text. Once they do that, then you can engage in a whole group discussion, and this will start students thinking as a group about what the text means. The activity is designed to get everyone talking about the text in a meaningful way. And so once they do that, you can then engage them in asking other questions about the particular text. So to get them, after they've done the activity and they're then talking in general about the text, you want to start out with some open-ended questions. That is, what were some of the things that you noticed? What do you think is important? What kinds of things, what kinds of questions did you have? That kind of open-ended question to get all the ideas out on the table. And that's because students might have ideas that surprise you about the text, and this will give them a chance to air those. If you ask a particular question, that's going to constrain what they're saying at first, and so you won't get the total idea of what they're understanding about the text. So after they've exhausted that kind of open-ended discussion, then there are some teacher-directed questions, and those are in the teacher's guide. And if they've talked about these ideas before, you don't really have to ask the questions again. You can follow up just in areas of understanding that still need to be addressed. There is an argument that's here, and when you talk about argument, and there'll be some questions that talk about argument, you want to use the terms claim and evidence. These terms reinforce the idea that historians are interpreting rather than just reporting the past. In other words, you're going to be asking, what claims did the author of this anchor text make about? Okay, what evidence was there used? And you're going to be using this language of argument as you go through this unit and Unit 2 as well. One of the things that you can reinforce in this lesson is the idea that Historians look at or interpret the past within a view to the societal functions or categories like political, social, economic, etc. And you can return to those text ideas to help them think about those categories. So, like, what did the text say that had to do with economics? What did it say that had to do with the political situation at the time? What did the text say that had to do with maybe the social aspects of society? That's going to help them look at text in the same way or look at the past in the same way that historians do, to interpret it in a little more fine-grained way than they may be used to thinking about it. And also, because you have modeled and asked them to practice close reading, you want to look for behaviors that indicate that they are doing that. So there is a chart in the teacher's guide, and you can use this chart to help you analyze how your students are doing. So when they were reading the anchor text, you can be wandering around the room looking at individual students and seeing if they are displaying behaviors that suggest to you that they are doing the close reading that they're supposed to be doing. Before you use that checklist, there are some pages about close reading in history. They're on pages 40 to 42 of the teacher's guide, and I would suggest you read them to get a good handle on what we mean by close reading in history, which might be different than we mean when we use it in English or in science. Okay, and that is basically what you're going to be doing in this lesson. It's an introduction to the actual reading of history text. It's fairly short, so you're getting students into the reading in a way that should be doable for them.